The morning Marcus Hale walked into Celestine Events Management, he had exactly $47 in his bank account, a bruised ego from his last job, and absolutely no intention of falling in love. He was hired as a junior event coordinator, someone who arranged floral centerpieces and confirmed catering orders invisible, replaceable, forgettable. That was fine with him. After everything that had happened the year before, invisible felt safe. Invisible felt survivable. What he did not expect, what no reasonable person could have predicted, was that on a rainy Thursday afternoon, his boss would close the glass door of her office, look at him with those unreadable gray eyes, and say 7 words that would permanently alter the course of both their lives. Serena Voss was not the kind of woman people felt sorry for. She was the kind of woman people stared at when she entered a room, not because she demanded attention, but because she carried herself like someone who had already survived the worst and decided, quietly and without ceremony, that she would never be destroyed again. She had built Celestine Events from a tiny apartment office into one of the most respected event management firms in the city.
This is AK Stories, where emotional stories remind us that one act of kindness can change everything. If you believe kindness still matters, press like, share this story with someone special, comment below, and subscribe to AK Stories for more inspiring stories.
She wore structured blazers and spoke in precise sentences and never, ever let anyone see her flinch. Marcus had worked beneath her for 8 months, and in all that time, he had never once seen her lose her composure. Until the day she called him into her office, and he noticed, just barely, that her hands were not entirely still. She told him calmly, almost clinically, that her family's annual dinner was happening that Saturday evening. Her parents, her younger sister, her aunt who never missed an opportunity to remind Serena that a woman her age without a partner was somehow incomplete. She had been dodging this dinner for 3 years, sending excuses like bouquets of wilting flowers. This year, her mother had called her bluff. This year there would be no escape. And so Serena Voss, who negotiated contracts with Fortune 500 companies without breaking a sweat, had arrived at the only solution her exhausted and cornered mind could produce. She needed someone to stand beside her, someone presentable, someone who would not embarrass her, someone, she said carefully, like Marcus. He almost laughed. Then he saw that she was completely serious, and the laugh dissolved somewhere in his chest. The dinner was held at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, the kind of place where the skyline stretched out like a promise, and the white tablecloths were so pristine, they seemed to exist in a separate reality from ordinary life. Marcus arrived in the only navy suit he owned, the one he had bought for a job interview 2 years ago and barely worn since. Serena was already there when he stepped off the elevator, standing near the glass railing with the city spread golden behind her, wearing a pale blue dress that made her look softer than he had ever seen her look. She turned when she heard his footsteps, and for one unguarded second, something moved across her face that she quickly composed back into professionalism. She straightened. She smiled, the polished version. She said he looked fine. He told her she looked more than fine. She looked away. Her family was warm and overwhelming in the way that families often are when they love fiercely and express it poorly. Her mother, Vivienne, embraced Marcus within 30 seconds of meeting him and immediately began asking questions that were really not questions at all, but gentle interrogations wrapped in affection. Her father, a quiet man named Roland, shook Marcus's hand and studied him with the careful eyes of someone who had spent a lifetime reading people. Her sister Petra was the most honest of all of them. She pulled Marcus aside before the appetizers arrived, glanced toward Serena across the table, and said simply that she hoped he understood what he was standing next to, because most people didn't, and it cost her. Marcus didn't fully understand what Petra meant. Not yet. The evening moved the way certain evenings do, with a momentum that feels orchestrated by something larger than the people living inside it. There were toasts and laughter and the soft clink of glasses. There were moments when Serena relaxed in increments so small that only someone watching very carefully would have noticed a loosening of the jaw, a laugh that was half a beat too genuine to be performance, her hand resting near his on the table without quite touching. He noticed all of it. He had been noticing things about her for 8 months, and only now, outside the fluorescent architecture of the office, did he understand that his noticing had never been entirely professional. But it was when Vivienne brought out the photographs that the night shifted completely. Old pictures, The kind families carry like sacred objects. Serena at 12, gap-toothed and grinning. Serena at 16, holding a first-place ribbon at some competition Marcus didn't know about. Serena at 22, standing in front of a small door with a hand-painted sign that read Celestine Events, looking terrified and radiant in equal measure. And then there was one photograph that Vivienne hesitated before placing on the table. Serena at 25, standing beside a man Marcus didn't recognize. Her smile different in that picture, wide open, unguarded, the kind of smile that belongs to someone who does not yet know what loss feels like. Vivienne didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Serena looked at that photograph for exactly 3 seconds, then looked out at the city, and Marcus watched her rebuild her walls in real time, brick by invisible brick, and felt something crack open in his own chest. Later, after goodbyes and the long elevator ride down, they stood on the pavement outside as the city hummed around them. Serena thanked him, formal, efficient. She said she would add a bonus to his next paycheck for the inconvenience. The word inconvenience landed between them like something dropped from a great height. Marcus stood there for a moment in his navy suit, with his $47 bank account history and his own collection of quiet wounds, and he made a decision that had nothing to do with professionalism and everything to do with the fact that he was tired of watching people build walls and call it strength, tired of doing it himself, tired of evenings that ended with people walking away from something real because real things are frightening. He told her that it hadn't been an inconvenience. He told her that the man in the photograph must have been an extraordinary kind of foolish to walk away from someone like her. He told her that he had spent 8 months watching her carry everything alone and making it look effortless, and that he thought she was the most quietly remarkable person he had ever known, and that none of what he had felt that evening had been pretend. Not a single moment of it. The city kept moving around them. A taxi passed. Somewhere above them, the restaurant glittered against the dark sky. Serena looked at him for a long time. Her eyes were doing something complicated. Then she said, very quietly, that the man in the photograph hadn't walked away. She had pushed him, because she had been afraid. Because she had just built the company, and everything felt precarious, and love felt like a liability she couldn't afford. And she had spent 3 years at rooftop dinners with her family's photographs, and her mother's careful silences understanding, slowly and painfully, what that decision had cost her. Marcus said nothing. He just stood there, steady, present, which was perhaps the most important thing he had ever done. They didn't fall into each other's arms on that pavement. This was not that kind of story, because real things rarely are. What happened instead was quieter and more durable. Serena asked if he wanted to walk for a while, and he said yes, and they walked through the lit city for almost 2 hours, talking in the way that people talk when they have finally stopped performing for each other. He told her about the year before, the job that had collapsed, and the relationship that had dissolved in the aftermath, the $47, and the desperate fresh start. She told him about the company's first year, sleeping on a cot in the office, eating meals that cost less than $1, calling clients from a phone she could barely afford to keep active. 2 people who had been quietly surviving in the same building for 8 months, finally actually meeting each other on a pavement at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. By the time they parted ways, nothing had been declared or promised, but something had shifted in the architecture of both their lives. The walls were not gone. Walls built over years do not come down in an evening. But there were doors now, where before there had only been stone. In the weeks that followed, the office was different, not loudly, not dramatically, but different in the way a room is different when the window has been opened. The same space, the same furniture, but something moving through it now that wasn't there before. A coffee left on his desk without explanation. A smile that arrived before the professional expression. Conversations that lingered a few seconds past necessity. The slow, careful, beautiful work of 2 guarded people choosing, day by day, to be a little less afraid. Marcus learned something during those weeks that he carried with him long after. That sometimes the most important moments of a life arrive, disguised as ordinary requests. That a woman who seems to need nothing might be the same woman who needs everything. That pretending, when it forces you into proximity with truth, has a way of becoming the real thing you've ever done. If this story moved something in you, if it reminded you that love doesn't always arrive loudly, that the bravest thing 2 people can do is simply stay present for each other, then give this video a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Your small gesture keeps these stories alive. Before we close, drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever had a moment where pretending became something real? We read every single one.